Hello, I'm Diana Kanecki from Kanecki Art, and today I'd like to talk about a social service issue as it regards to wellness. That a few months ago, um, there are two books that I became aware of. One was in Evanston called The Missing Liberal, and that was from the one pastor at Lake Street Church in Evanston, as she mentioned that for the book reading club. Um, Second book I became aware of, as well as from Lake Street Church, was Poverty Incorporated, as part of the reading group too. And Lake Street Church in Evanston does have distinction of having former President Carter speak at Lake Street Church. I've always admired President Carter for his support of Habitat for Humanity, and also as well as for his theological um, beliefs and assertions to his identity and leading by example. Although I call myself a moderate Republican, basically socially liberal but conservative on other things, or some people would say a British conservative, which is socially liberal and conservative on other things. A friend of mine I know, we actually talked about this a few times, and actually, she sort of says, "Well, you're not really, you may not really consider yourself a moderate, may not really be a moderate Republican. You're just an old Democrat. You're not, you don't believe in extremism on either side of both political parties. You believe in a moderate approach. You don't." And also you believe in certain types of conservative ways to do things, but socially you are a liberal in other things. And so it's a case where that, because nowadays people can't say that they're liberal socially and conservative on certain types of organizational issues or nation issues, then they had to put themselves as either liberal, progressive, Republican, or Tea Party, and or as I say, moderate Republican, which includes basically part Republican, part Democrat, so or some people would say purple. Um, the thing is, what I like to talk about is the issue of how people escape from poverty or basically homelessness. One person Ted mentioned was correct to mention that poverty is a state of mind. Yes, it is, because people may get convinced by, if they face all this negativity all the time, that, oh, this person's not good, this person's not good, this person's not good, or this person is this person is this person is this. Well, I mean, if someone runs into that all the time and they can't get away to an area where there's their support system, of course, anyone will start to believe it, because there have been many examples of this. There's a movie, Iron Man, starring James Cagney, that was made in the 30s, about a very tough guy who was captured, and as through a process, basically as a PO, he got broken down, because basically he was not allowed to get to his support system, and this was trivially done. Where does this come in with Poverty Incorporated? Well, many of the issues addressed in Poverty Incorporated didn't initially start out as taking advantage of people or exploiting people who have fallen through the cracks, or people who need help from different social service. Many of those programs didn't start that way, with exploiting and then just getting paid to exploit people. They actually did start with good basis and good beliefs, as well as good people. However, Basically, others found out that if they made other side partnerships, side deals, they could get extra money. And and since basically the main organization, the federal government and Health and Human Services, or the old HEW, never checked or never followed up, they could get away with this for a long time, and with many people being shuffled into the poverty incorporated system. That's reason why that's reason why some people in some communities actually went to a system where, okay, well, instead of setting up a service where we have federal funding or state funding, we'll set up a service, which was like First Step in Kenosha, which was non-state funded, non-federal funded, which was strictly by donations. And the basis for that was that because since it was by donations, people watched where the donations went and how the people were treated. Um, and um, and that worked out pretty good too. The one thing though is where it didn't work is basically the group that's the Poverty Incorporated. When they saw someone operating, basically helping the customers without any side deals or without any um, extra cash money going for quickly shuffling people, not really helping them, they did a pushback and wanted them out and closed. Um, the thing is, um, regarding Poverty Incorporated, if someone or if a community or like in the Midwest, Chicago, Milwaukee, um, in other Midwestern cities wish to use the Poverty Incorporated model, I mean, um, they can. I mean, they're there are people they can push down and they will fall through the cracks or basically end up falling through cracks a different way. The thing is, though, as a community, what should one really think about that? Because what that means as a community, if a community supports a poverty incorporated mantra, like it's done in Chicago and Milwaukee, and also in Kenosha, um, as well as we've seen the Milwaukee-Chicago corridor. Um, what does that mean for someone? Well, what someone should think though is, okay, well, if someone thinks, okay, well, I'm up here and I'm never going to get into this poverty incorporated strata. Never. My family, my descendants, no one's ever going to get into this. Well, that's good. You have optimism. However, there are vast economic cycles that occur, and especially with what happened with the meltdown, where it's a cash economy. Um, the for people to move from one job that's up here to a vastly lower paying job that's down here that puts them near the spectrum of poverty incorporated is far greater now than it was in the 70s, the 80s, and even the 90s, as well as even the into the new century. And the thing is, what that means then is that means that as long as there's this big divide like this, it eventually what's going to happen is this big divide will pull everyone down to this with only a small percentage up here. One approach that was good, that started in the 60s in England and also in Scandinavia, was that when unions did negotiate contracts and there are big gaps like this, what they did was the way they made that everyone had a higher quality of life was basically not by pulling people down, but what they did was by by incrementally raising people up, up, so that the gap was smaller. So basically, if someone did fall or lose a good job, they still had a job that they can fully support their family without state aid, without badger care, and without other things. Because if someone is working full time, it's up to the company to pay full time benefits that they can own a home, own a car, and support a family of four. Um, and if a company can't do that, then there's something wrong with the company and the model that they're trying to do. Another thing of Poverty Incorporated, though, too, is when someone's in a shelter, the quickest thing is sometimes they'll say, well, oh, well, here's a packing job over at this place and such, and this job is piecework, and some people are very good at piecework and can do it and last a long time. Others who can't. But the problem is for the ones who can't, they're made to feel that if they don't apply for those jobs or don't do that, they're not doing their part in trying to help themselves. Well, part of work is also understanding your physical abilities and your abilities to do certain types of jobs. It's not it's not the misuse of maximum economic advantage that is used by Poverty Incorporated. That just shuffling someone quickly into a job and checking off in the box that they're out of the program in 30 days or less is a way to do things. No, it's not. The thing is to get someone that they're in a long term, that they're able to do something for long term that they're happy with, because that way they'll stay with it and also they'll grow with it financially. A third point of Poverty Incorporated is the philosophy that someone does not have friends. When they come in, don't make friends, don't expect to have friends, don't keep up contacts when you're out of the program. And when they do that, they're running it like a bad correction system, basically. And part of this is because Poverty Incorporated does hire bad corrections officers as managers, and they hide in social service agencies. And many many responsible people who have seen this and observed this in Chicago, Milwaukee, Evanston, Kenosha, we've seen, are appalled, really. And some who are undercover bosses who have gone are really appalled because it's worse than what some of the episodes that were seen on CBS. But I do like undercover boss because the part I do like is when the boss does come out from undercover, he has a meeting. He brings the people that were helpful and the people that weren't. And with the people that are helpful, he gives them the rewards that were denied them. The people that weren't helpful, he doesn't do like Poverty Incorporated does when they get caught. Say, oh, well, we didn't know about this person. We'll probably fire this person and throw them out of the system. No, he said he or she finds out why did this person do what they did, and offers them a second chance to basically be a good person. And that's what needs to be done. Part of the reason for me making these videos is that as an undercover boss, I am coming out undercover, and we'll have my meeting soon with social service in the area, as well as certain business people and certain landlords in regard to their practices. And in this case, it will involve legal, and it will involve a federal investigation, because at the state level there's too much deferment to the county, and then the county basically is afraid. Counties are afraid to do anything because if they do anything, they're always threatened with, oh, this company's going to pull out, this company's going to lose its tax money or something else. But I'd like to mention something to some people who are afraid about fighting Poverty Incorporated. A few days ago, I was at one McDonald's and they had a channel on from MeTV, and one of the programs was Death Valley Days, and I was there basically having lunch and studying, and actually was aired here 2 episodes. Well, the first episode was about how someone who's a nonconformist with new technology actually made an area grow, and the first thing that took what showed what helped was one young woman knows a young man with a bear rifle rather than a 45, and because everyone had a 45, and she said, well, why do you have the bear rifle? And I said, well, because when I'm away on the ranch, away from the house, and I'm working and prospecting, you need a bear rifle just in case if you're attacked by a bear, because a 45 will not work. 45 will work if you're attacked by bandits, but not against a bear. And that was the case of understanding the situation, having technology that actually addressed the needs of the situation rather than the common folklore of trying to make use of the technology to make do with the situation. The second example came with regarding old example of railroading that occurred in 1839. And it's interesting because the county mentioned was Washoe County, which many of us who have been to Reno know is the county where Reno is, and also right next to Washoe County is Lake Tahoe, which is where I went to my first military conference in '92. Well, the episode was about where the whale said, well, oh well, we spent a lot of money digging through the mountain and putting in the infrastructure of the railroads and everything else, and you're going to get the benefit of all the travel of all the people. Doesn't this sound familiar to economic development arguments we hear today? However, what the county board said is they said, based upon the contract that was signed, the railroad also promised to pay a certain amount of property taxes and other taxes for the use of that land, as per the contract, and they're not allowed to modify that. So at first they went to the state judge, and the state judge was afraid to do that because he said, well, if we do this, the railroad's going to wash Washoe County off the map, and we're going to become a ghost town, and no one's ever going to come here again. But then he went to federal attorney. Federal attorney says, no, a contract is a contract is a contract. The railroad has to pay up. And so the railroad attorney apologized that went this one, said, I feel bad that I had to represent this case, but I'll talk with them to pay it. But the railroad still kept going through, not paying the fees and the taxes. So what the sheriff did was the sheriff basically took and put a blockade on the train, and the train and again the rail company says, well, if you don't let this train pass, we're never going to come through this county again, and your county is going to become a pile of dust and everything else. Well, eventually, when they couldn't bombast and couldn't intimidate, the sheriff, someone basically went to get a federal marshal, and the railroad thought, well, since they were able to bully the state government and the county government to submission, they could bully this federal marshal. The federal marshal took a look at the judge's order and said, no, pay up, you owe this money. And then he says, the train's staying here until you do. And well, about a few hours later, they received a telegram from Sacramento Federal Bank that the money was deposited in the account that the railroad was supposed to pay and will be deposited from then on with the federal government monitoring. And what this allowed the citizens of Washoe County to do is to actually enjoy the benefits of the railroad and improve the county. The most important part came at the end, though. When they did get the money, people said, well, oh, let's distribute the money now to all the people. He says, no, that's up to when the county board meets in the next election. Again, there's a process. It's not, because it's just not like ad hoc like what the railroad is trying to do. So some of these older things did address ways to fight the poverty incorporated mantra that does exist. And We may need to go back to look at Death Valley Days with Ronald Reagan, and especially those two episodes. I wish I knew what the titles were, because I would like to do more of a review of those episodes. Well, let me know what you think. I'm on Twitter at Diana1A and prefer to receive comments by Twitter. Thank you.